हर एथलीट के पीछे न जाने कितनों की मेहनत जुड़ी होती है। चलो इस मेहनत में यस बैंक के साथ अपना सपोर्ट भी जोड़ दें।
Get the magic of the best working for you now.
Link your payment cards once, collect rewards forever.
India, diverse, vast and beautiful. 1.4 billion people live here, and the power to protect it lies with each one of us. As India marches towards net zero, we must act together. It's time to focus on solutions rather than delving into
लोन मिलेगा या नहीं, ये आपके क्रेडिट स्कोर पे डिपेंड करता है। तो आज ही पैसाबाजार.com पर जाइए और अपना क्रेडिट स्कोर चेक कीजिए फ्री में, क्योंकि लोन की जरूरत कभी भी किसी को भी पड़ सकती है। बस एक्टिंग करा लो इनसे।
A $7 trillion economy seems a perfectly conceivable number.
If you want to be a national party, it's that you sort of accept the way the world is rather than want to endlessly hark back to how it was.
Modi is promoting the digitization of the economy, which is accelerating growth in the country.
Get ready for the ride of your life. NDTV brings you the NDTV Auto Show with me, Mugdha Mishra. From the fastest supercars to the sleekest new energy vehicles to your trusted daily ride, we cover it all. Every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. and Sunday at 8:30 p.m. only on NDTV 24/7. Your next great escape starts here.
After great victory by Indian team, and today we are reporting from Mohali International Airport where we are showing these visuals. Arshdeep हमारे साथ हैं।
The performance आई सारे दिन ले बढ़िया results मिले।
We are in the city of Kanpur today because they have their champion back home, Kuldeep Yadav.
Desperation for each and everyone to go.
Watching the world 24/7 on the NDTV network, I'm Parmeshwar Bava. Let's begin with the headlines we're tracking at the moment. A pair of provocative strikes that killed enemies of Israel has pushed the Middle East to the brink of a wider war the US has worked so hard to head off. Lebanon's armed group Hezbollah confirmed that senior military commander Fuad Shukr had been killed more than 24 hours after an Israeli strike hit a building in the southern suburb of the Lebanese capital that he was in. The group said that its leader, Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah, would make an address on the occasion of Shukr's funeral, which is today. The Indian Embassy in Lebanon issues a fresh advisory stating that Indians should avoid all non-essential travel to Lebanon. Donald Trump has questioned whether Kamala Harris is really black or is using race as a political convenience in an interview that has sent shockwaves through the 2024 US presidential contest. The Vietnamese Prime Minister is in India on a 3-day state visit. He will receive a ceremonial welcome at the forecourt of the Rashtrapati Bhavan today and then hold bilateral discussions with Prime Minister Modi. Boeing has named Robert Kelly Ottberg as its next CEO, while the company is posting a quarterly loss of more than $1.4 billion. Well, our big focus, a pair of provocative strikes that killed enemies of Israel has pushed the Middle East to the brink of a wider war the United States has said that it worked hard to head off. In fact, on Tuesday night, that Israeli airstrike in Beirut killed a top official with Hezbollah, setting off concerns that the Lebanese terrorist group would feel compelled to respond. Hours later, after midnight, Hamas's political leader Ismail Haniyeh was killed in a mysterious strike in Iran's Tehran, vastly complicating the calculus and also raising concerns about a regional escalation to some of their highest levels in nearly 10 months of war in Gaza. I must also inform you that according to a New York Times report, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has issued an order for Iran to strike Israel directly in retaliation for the killing of Ismail Haniyeh. Hamas says the head of their political bureau, Ismail Haniyeh, has been killed in an airstrike by Israel on his house in Tehran. Ismail Haniyeh was in charge of Hamas's international relations and had a key role in the negotiations on the Gaza hostage and ceasefire deal. News of his death came a few hours after Israel killed Hezbollah's top military commander in an airstrike in Beirut. Haniyeh, who was based in Qatar, had been visiting Iran in recent days and participated on Tuesday in the inauguration ceremony of the new Iranian president Masoud Pezeshkian, an event also attended by Senior Minister Nitin Gadkari. Haniyeh had long served as the head of Hamas's Politburo and was seen as a moderate figure within the movement, one whose rule had become vital in sustained diplomatic efforts to secure a ceasefire. He was elected as the head of the political wing in 2017 before leaving Gaza for exile in Qatar 2 years later. From exile, he became the face of the Palestinian group's international diplomacy, shuttling between Turkey, Iran and Qatar, joining a group of Hamas leaders sheltering in Doha and unable to return to Gaza. Haniyeh was an early advocate of Hamas entering politics. In 1994, he said that forming a political party would enable Hamas to deal with emerging developments. When he left Gaza in 2017, Haniyeh was succeeded by Sinwar, a hardliner who spent more than 2 decades in Israeli prisons and whom Haniyeh had welcomed back to Gaza in 2011 after a prisoner exchange. Sinwar is said by experts to be the last word on major decisions by the group. A Hamas official has said the killing is a cowardly act and will not go unanswered. While the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps has said that it's opened an investigation around the incident, experts are arguing that it's one thing to kill Haniyeh, it's another to do it specifically in Tehran. Many are worried that Haniyeh's killing could now lead to renewed fears of an escalation of violence across the Middle East. Parmeshwar Bava for NDTV. Well, for further clarity on the global ramifications, we have with us Edward Joseph, lecturer from Johns Hopkins University. Thank you so much, Mr. Joseph, for joining us. Now, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has blamed Israel and said Iran had a duty of revenge because Haniyeh had been targeted while a guest in the country. In fact, a New York Times report has stated that Khamenei has issued an order for Iran to strike Israel directly. As things stand at the moment, do you think there's going to be an all-out regional escalation as far as this war is concerned?
No, I don't believe that that's the case. And although, of course, obviously these dramatic types of assassination, this one in Tehran of Ismail Haniyeh, the political leader of Hamas, and the night before in Beirut of Fuad Shukr, the senior Hezbollah commander. Obviously, these are provocative acts, they're dramatic acts, and they invite a response from Iran, which of course is the sponsor of Hezbollah and of Hamas. In particular, in this case, we have Iran is embarrassed because it demonstrated that it is unable to protect a obvious target like Mr. Haniyeh. And it also demonstrates that Israel is very capable of penetrating its security establishment. So Iran is embarrassed, and that, of course, calls for some type of a response. But we have to be very clear here that what are the interests in having some type of all-out war? Iran risks a lot if it engages in an all-out war. What Iran prefers is the status quo, where it uses its proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, all three of them, to create pressures on Israel without engaging and risking an all-out war that could find Iran in a very compromised situation. Please.
In fact, the killing of Haniyeh has also led many to question whether Israel's government had any real desire to actually halt the war there. I mean, Egypt and Qatar, they have warned that Haniyeh's killing would set back negotiations. Do you echo the belief that this will, in fact, impact negotiations in a negative manner?
Actually, that's not clear. This could paradoxically advance the prospects for a ceasefire. First of all, it isn't as if the real true leader of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, and Ismail Haniyeh were close. They were actually rivals in Hamas. So the true leader of Hamas, Mr. Sinwar, who's safely ensconced in a tunnel beneath Gaza, may actually be okay with the fact that Mr. Haniyeh is not there. Second, we have the fact on the Israeli side that these two assassinations bolster the credentials for Prime Minister Netanyahu should he decide to actually enter into the ceasefire talks. Remember, for Prime Minister Netanyahu, the concern is from those on his right who criticize him and don't want him to enter that deal, while on the left, he's pressured to enter the deal and to get the hostages back. So in some ways, this suits his political posture, and it could enable him to enter into this ceasefire agreement that the United States is pursuing with Egypt and with Qatar. And I should point out here that those talks have continued in Rome.
Right.
Those talks continue. So it's not clear at all that actually this will scuttle the opportunities for a all-important ceasefire and hostage return. Please.
In fact, Mr. Joseph, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that the United States was not aware or involved in the killing of Ismail Haniyeh. But, many are skeptical of this statement coming in from Antony Blinken. Many are finding this statement hard to believe.
Well, I don't find it too hard to believe because the U.S. had different comments when it came to the strike on Mr. Shukr, that is the senior Hezbollah commander in Beirut. And we should point out that that attack, that assassination of Mr. Shukr, the senior Hezbollah commander, came after Hezbollah killed the 12 children, the youths, who are Druze, I should point out, that is Arab citizens of Israel. And that was Israel's response to that. And we did not have that same type of comment from Mr. Blinken. And in this case, also, there's a difference in how the Israelis have commented. While they openly took credit for the assassination of Shukr in Beirut, the Hezbollah leader, they did not confirm or deny the hit here on Mr. Haniyeh. So we have both the U.S. and Israel that have a different posture towards this strike than the one in Beirut. And why? That's because the U.S. and Israel do not want to further push Iran into a corner. Neither of them have that interest. But finally, let me say here that we do not see a lot of criticism from the U.S. on these strikes. And the reason is, in some ways, this is exactly what the U.S. has advocated Israel to do all along, not to engage in a forcible intervention in Gaza, but to use targeted strikes against its enemies and adversaries. And in this case, that's exactly what Israel has done. Please.
Thank you so much, Edward Joseph, for joining us. Always a pleasure to hear your insight. We will, of course, revert to you for regular updates as things progress. We also have with us from Tel Aviv, Amy Gutman. Thank you so much, Amy, for joining us on the World 24/7. The United States has stated that it was unaware of Israel's plans of these attacks. Do you believe this to be true? If so, does this indicate a rift between Israel and the United States? You've just heard Mr. Joseph say that the United States statement from Antony Blinken should be taken for face value.
I don't think there's any rift. The U.S. has come out very firmly and very strongly in support of Israel's right to defend itself. And certainly that's what it is doing after the attack that we saw on the 12 children in the Druze village. So Israel has come out to say, look, this is what needs to be done. And the US has given it full support and continues that support today. So I think if there was any kind of rift, we would not see that consistency in messaging, not just from one member of the White House cabinet, but from several. So that is very consistent. Usually when there's a rift, we start hearing different language, different tones being used between different cabinet members and aides in the White House. So we don't see any of that. So no, there's very consistent support. There is no sign of a rift.
But Qatar's Prime Minister, meanwhile, who is a key mediator in the indirect negotiations between Israel and Hamas, has expressed concern about the future of the ceasefire deal. Amy, how does this now impact ceasefire and hostage deal negotiations?
You're right. We have heard from officials from both Egypt and Qatar saying that this will delay any deal. To be honest, we've seen an infinite number of delays to any potential deal that's been on the table. So I think it's very easy to blame these assassinations for any delay to a deal. And I think, yes, the US and some Israeli officials had hoped that we were inching closer to a deal. I don't know that that's actually true. I think that's impossible to know. I don't think anybody knows that because, as we've all seen, there have been so many delays to deals and so much back and forthing on the part of Hamas that I think it's looking backwards to try to figure out, could we have been at a deal tomorrow, the next day, the following, and did this prevent it? Of course, it will slow things down.
Meanwhile, US and Israeli officials say that Israel was actually behind the killing of Haniyeh. Is this situation expected to escalate into a full-blown war, as many are arguing? What are you picking up on?
That's the big question everyone is asking. And of course, Israel is bracing itself for that. But that's the war that no one wants. Not even Iran wants that war. And Iran's MO typically has been to saber rattle and, send out sort of the pit bull with the biggest bark, but always pull back. And of course, back in April, we saw something a little bit different where they didn't pull back. They actually did wage an attack, but it was a controlled attack, if you will, designed to scare and designed to get a point across, but certainly not designed to start an all-out war. Now, this is a little bit different, for sure. This is absolutely a different level, a higher escalation point, and they will need to respond. How that happens, it could be on infrastructure. It could be on infrastructure in sparsely populated area, which causes some damage, but not critical mass damage. Could be a cyber attack. Israel, luckily, is a country that probably has more cyber unicorns than anywhere else in the world. Having said that, an attack is an attack. So there are ways that they could wage an attack and show their muscle and make a point.
Well, Amy, let's see how things unfold in the next few days. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us with the latest update. We will, of course, revert to you for regular updates. Meanwhile, the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah has confirmed that Israel killed a top commander after a rare strike in Beirut. The Iran-backed group said earlier that Fawad Shukr was actually in the building during the attack on Tuesday, and they were searching for him in the rubble to determine his fate. Hezbollah's announcement came after an overnight strike in Tehran that killed Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, which Hamas and Iran blamed on Israel. Israel said late on Tuesday that it had killed Shukr, who it said was behind the weekend rocket attack in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights that killed 12 young people. Meanwhile, the Indian Embassy in Lebanon has just issued a fresh travel advisory stating that all Indian nationals should avoid all non-essential travel to Lebanon. In fact, this latest advisory that's been posted by the Indian Embassy in Lebanon, it clearly states that their Indian nationals are advised to exercise caution and remain in constant contact with the embassy in Beirut. Well, Let's turn our attention now to the political playground in the United States. During a contentious and chaotic panel hosted by the National Association of Black Journalists, Donald Trump parroted disinformation about immigration and abortion, questioned Kamala Harris's race, and accused a panel moderator, Rachel Scott, the senior congressional correspondent for ABC News, of being rude and presenting a nasty question when she asked him, "Why should black voters trust you?" Now, this appearance, which actually received backlash from black journalists citing the former president's anti-black, anti-journalist and anti-democracy history, received a mix of jeers, laughter and interruptions from attendees as Trump evaded several questions asked by moderators. In fact, on multiple occasions, audience members at the annual convention in Chicago attempted to fact-check Trump in real time, including when he falsely claimed that Harris did not pass her bar exam to be a lawyer, and when he defended pardoning people who were convicted for their actions on the 6th of January during the Capitol attack in the US. And a new poll from the AP NORC Center for Public Affairs Research has found that about 8 in 10 Democrats say they would be very or somewhat satisfied with Kamala Harris as the party's nominee. However, Americans still see a tough contest for the president looming. But the latest poll from the Associated Press and NORC Research Center found that 79% of Democrats support Kamala Harris atop the ticket. Now, this is a significant increase in satisfaction for the leading Democratic candidate within the party after Joe Biden actually withdrew from the race last week and endorsed her. But the AP noted a separate poll taken before Biden stepped aside, but after his disastrous debate with former President Trump last month, that found only about 4 in 10 Democrats were actually satisfied with Joe Biden as the nominee. Vishal joins us live with further clarity on the latest findings from this new poll. Vishal, take us through the key takeaways as far as this AP NORC Center for Public Research survey has just revealed.
So it further stamps, it further solidifies position of Kamala Harris, that she has emerged as a really strong contender for the top post in the US. Ever since her campaign started, even though she's not been officially nominated, she has been able to garner more than $200 million within the space of a few days. Her campaign has, garnered money from corners of the society that generally haven't favored Kamala Harris in the last 2 or 3 years. She had faced backlash from those corners, but she has strangely been able to, attract people from those corners as well. So she is gaining more ground as we speak, and Trump, though, leads her in quite a few states, but as far as Biden's performance was concerned, it's way below what Kamala has been able to do in the space of a few days. As you mentioned, the latest poll from AP NORC says that about 80% of the Democrats have faith in Kamala Harris if she is chosen as a nominee. That says a lot about her. On the other hand, Biden had only about 40% of the support when the last time the poll was done. And the latest poll was done just after Joe Biden stepped out of the election race. So within the space of a few days, Kamala Harris has really solidified her position. And when the time comes for her official nomination, which could be in the next few days, that will also, further solidify her position. And the race is on. Donald Trump seems to be not backing down for sure. He has also gained ground ever since the assassination bid on his life. And he has been able to, ramp up support from corners that also don't support him. So it's sort of a neck and neck race right now between both the contenders. It was slightly skewed in Trump's favor when Biden was the nominee, but now it seems to be a neck and neck race as far as the big polls are concerned in November.
As always, Vishal, thanks so much for joining us with the latest update. Let's turn our attention now to home ground, where Vietnam's Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh is actually in India on a 3-day state visit at the invitation of Prime Minister Modi, with the aim of consolidating the recent advances in economic and security relations between our two nations. The Vietnamese leader is scheduled to hold talks and meetings with Prime Minister Modi, President Murmu, and the speakers of both houses of parliament. But Mr. Chin's visit is the first by a Vietnamese or Indian Prime Minister to the other country since the two nations established their comprehensive strategic partnership back in 2016 in September, when India actually became the third nation to attain this status after China and Russia. These three nations have now since been joined at the top tier of Vietnam's diplomatic hierarchy by South Korea, the United States, Japan, and Australia. Together, this roster of key partners, which could soon be joined by Indonesia and Singapore, Vietnam says encapsulates their flexible and omnidirectional foreign policy doctrine. Well, news and updates continue in a moment, right on the other side of the short break.
अरे अनूप सो नहीं, अनूप सो नहीं।
सावधान, सतर्क। ये बॉस, तुम दोनों के होते हुए अनूप सो नहीं सकता। क्यों?
क्योंकि अनूप ने सारी सिक्योरिटी की जिम्मेवारी खुद पे ले रखी है।
अनूप को चाहिए अपने घर पे सिक्योर आए माइक एनेबल्ड सीसीटीवी।
सिक्योर आए सीसीटीवी कैमरा एंड सिक्योरिटी सोल्यूशन।
जीते तो अगली बार इज्जत दांव पे होगी, और ना जीते तब तो इज्जत ही दांव पे होगी। इसलिए हारे तब भी रुकना नहीं, जीते तब भी रुकना नहीं है। हर ओलंपिक्स में इनके साथ जुड़े हैं JSW, क्योंकि JSW की खुद से भी शर्त यही है, रुकना नहीं है।
Powering 100 plus athletes who are aiming to be stronger, faster, higher at this year's Paris Olympic Games. NDTV will be in Paris too, getting you blow-by-blow coverage of top teams, sports, men and women. Catch all the Olympic news on NDTV 24/7. Co-presented by Samman Capital. Jio Samman se presents.
Welcome back. A 17-year-old boy has been charged with murder and attempted murder after 13 people, including 11 children, were stabbed at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class in Southport. Merseyside police has said that they charged the suspect, who is from the village of Banks in Lancashire, with 3 counts of murder, 10 counts of attempted murder and 1 count of possession of an offensive weapon. He will appear at the Liverpool City Magistrates Court, and Alice De Silva and a 7-year-old were actually fatally stabbed, while 5 children remain in critical condition after they were attacked while taking part in a dance and yoga class on Monday morning. Well, switching tracks, Boeing has named Robert Kelly Ottberg as its next CEO and president, tapping an industry veteran to turn around a company beset by safety scandals, production problems, and steep losses. Ottberg, who's 64 years old, is the former CEO of Rockwell Collins, and he is scheduled to officially take over Boeing operations on the 8th of August in about 7 days, and he will succeed Dave Calhoun, who will retire at the end of the year, but Dave will remain as a special advisor to the board through March. Thank you for investing your time and watching this edition of The World 24/7. We'll keep tracking the latest for you. Do stay tuned.
Amity University has one of India's largest merit scholarship programs for brilliant CUET candidates. Over 25,000 scholarship holders have already benefited from the culture of academic excellence and focus on research and innovation. To be with like-minded students who want to be successful, apply at amity.edu/scholarships.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam campaign is being implemented with utmost dedication in Uttar Pradesh by Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath.
इस पेड़ को लगाना भी है, बचाना भी है और फिर इसके माध्यम से अपने पर्यावरण को संरक्षित करने के कार्यक्रम के साथ भी हमें जुड़ना है.
He recently launched a massive tree plantation campaign under which a target to plant 36 crore 50 lakh saplings was achieved in a day. A tough task accomplished with the support of the localites.
आज ये पेड़ लगा रहे हैं तो ये आगे 100 साल तक हमें ऑक्सीजन और फल के साथ साथ कुछ जरूरती लकड़ियां भी देते हैं. आजकल के यूथ को सबसे पहले यही सीखना चाहिए कि ऑक्सीजन की पूर्ति के लिए एसी को न लगा के पेड़ लगाया जाए.
As a result of the efforts made by the UP government, global institutions are giving a grant of 200 crore rupees to Uttar Pradesh for carbon credit to be spent on the welfare of farmers.
किसी का सपना दौड़ लगाता है तो चलो मैदान में मिलके हम भी जोर लगाएंगे. मिलकर जीतेंगे, मिलकर जिताएंगे.
NDTV proudly upholds its legacy of trust and credibility. According to the prestigious Reuters Institute's Digital News Report 2024, NDTV is the top-most news platform in the country. Number one in both online and offline reach in India. Beating all its competition, NDTV stands for trust. Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best journalism and storytelling on your smartphone or tablet. The NDTV app. News that matters to you.
Some people say the metaverse will only be virtual. One day this lecture hall will be made of code and driverless cars would be trapped in intersections. But even in this maze of the future, you can't wish away health. It's time to become more resilient. 10 years of Banega Swasth.
And in Wayanad, landslides, over 165 people dead so far. Rescue and relief operations continue on the third day. In Delhi, anger over coaching centres deaths grow. Students protest despite heavy rain, demand justice. Bail petitions of SUV driver, basement co-owners rejected. Poll panel gears up for elections in Jammu and Kashmir. Poll panel likely to visit Jammu and Kashmir within 10 days. This is the bid to hold elections in Jammu and Kashmir before September 30th this year. And in Paris Olympics, another medal hope for India. Shooter Swapnil Kusale qualifies for 50-meter rifle finals. India so far has 2 bronze medals in its kitty. And Delhi witnessed waterlogging in several areas after heavy rainfall brought the national capital to its knees once again. And after that, the areas are flooded. People are facing issues. This happened after heavy rainfall. Downpour was witnessed last night for several hours. There were rainfall witnessed in several parts. You can see how areas in the national capital and as well as in the NCR region were waterlogged. People waded through knee-deep water and several areas remained shut. You can see how people are crossing flooded roads while making human chains and making it possible for people to
cross the roads which are waterlogged after heavy rainfall. Airlines are also issuing advisories for people to check status before boarding flights. Now, my colleagues will be joining me for more details, and this has happened after the national capital witnessed heavy rainfall in the night, and this continued in the morning as well. Several areas are waterlogged, and people are complaining that no lessons have been learnt. In fact, 3 people died in those rainfall related incidents, and still there are no lessons learnt, is what people are demanding. Questions and answers are not being given by the authorities. Delhi was thrown into chaos as heavy rainfall led to severe waterlogging. Even structural collapses were witnessed as wall collapsed in Delhi's Daryaganj. Cars were crushed, and similar incidents were reported in other areas of the national capital as well. Now disruptions and were delayed. The traffic jam situation was worse at night, where people took at least 4 to 5 hours to reach at a location where it usually took them 2 hours. Now the city witnessed significant waterlogging in several parts. Visuals emerged from Civic Center near Ramlila Maidan in South